Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the MEF Roundtable on People with Disability, a hidden market of $1 billion you should consider. We have a tremendous roster of speakers. It's going to be an exciting and important event, and it's taking place in the context of the publication by MEF of the report by Chris Lewis last month. And Chris will be co-hosting this event together with Dario Betti. And you'll hear from them, Dario Betti, the CEO of MEF, and you'll be hearing from them in a minute. Let me just give a few words of introduction. Why is MEF publishing this report on people with disability, and why is this event taking place? It's important to say that our mission statement has within it the words inclusion for all. And that has a very broad meaning, but it means all members of our ecosystem and all consumers. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that we are keen for our members and for the industry to reach out to the billion users worldwide with disabilities who today may often not feel fully included in mobile services. We pride ourselves on working as a cross-sector organization for networking, collaboration, and advanced industry solutions. And the whole topic of inclusion, the whole topic of access is very much a cross-sector topic. It's all about how devices, services, personal data, payments mechanisms, how they all interact. And that requires collaboration along the value chain, and facilitating that collaboration is what MEF does. As our life expectancy continues to expand, we're going to see how living with disability becomes a more and more common feature across demographics, and it's essential that sustainable businesses in the future look at meeting those needs in order to remain relevant and assuring the sustainability of the industry and of the companies within that industry has always been a MEF core role. But it's worth saying that here at MEF we're doing things differently. Many attempts to address the challenges of meeting the needs of disabled people come at it from a corporate social responsibility angle. We look at it and we're presenting it instead as a way for advancing business. At MEF, we typically deal with chief sales officers, chief marketing officers, chief product officers, and with CEOs, and we want them to pay attention. We want them to see the needs of a billion unserved consumers as a tremendous business opportunity. If we're focusing it like that, it merges the interests of those consumers with the interests of the businesses that need to collaborate in order to meet them. The timing is excellent. Mobile is now very much mature for accessibility. Mobile devices are widely available, widely affordable, widely owned throughout the market, and they are, because they're increasingly sophisticated, they contain more and more means to serve the needs of disabled people. So there is an unparalleled potential today. Mobile services today are much more able to mix media, so including voice and video and text and graphics, to provide a multimedia experience which can address the requirements of all sorts of people with all sorts of disabilities. The timing is right. We at MEF have the right ingredients. We now have the vision, and we wish to build the vision amongst our stakeholders and to create a sense of urgency to tackle this opportunity. In my company, I prove inclusion is a fundamental value and a fundamental business driver. And so this is a topic about which I feel very passionately. Today, for those of you with listening difficulties, we have live transcripts or captions available at the bottom of the screen, provided by our sponsor SyncWords. Just go to the bottom of the Zoom screen and click the button to display them in real life, to display them on your screen. And now I'd like to hand over to the CEO of MEF, Dario Betti, and to Chris Lewis to take forward this wonderful event. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, for the nice words and the great introductions. Andrew is the chairman of MEF and one of the founders. And hello from me, I am Dario Betti. I'm currently the Chief Executive Officer. Apologies, I have some horrible sound background for you. Good news, I won't be here for too long, but you will be in the hands of Chris very soon. Chris Lewis, the highly regarded telecom analyst, somebody with 30 years of experience in the field. I've met him 20 years ago, and I believe working with him, also not realizing that he was legally blind in the first month or so I worked with him. That was how much good he was with the different assisting technologies that he's been using ever since. So who else to ask for a report that puts together the potential in mobile and the technologies available at disposal. Chris, welcome again to MEF.
Dario, it's an absolute pleasure. And Andrew, thank you for those introductory words. And of course, one of the things we should think about throughout this event is that, you know, the accessibility, the inclusion using platforms like Zoom and Teams and WebEx and so on. Actually, we face some challenges. So let's see how seamlessly people like myself and at least one other contributor as blind people can use the platform fully accessible.
It is a journey for us as well, Chris. And by the way, I should say thanks again to Sync Words, which has been our sponsor partner and providing the human live caption for today. So accessibility is a journey. We're just starting on that as well. But let's talk about what you've been busy with. The report, which is available for people to download freely. I'm sure that soon in the chat we might have a link or some information on how to do that in case you haven't read. But tell me a bit more. The title was A Person with Disability, the Hidden Market. And let's start with person with disability, PWD as we call it as well. Can you define who we're talking about? Who's a person with disability?
Yeah, what is fascinating to begin with, and initially I did some work on this in 2014 with Dr. Mike Short when he was at Telefonica. The definition as an analyst, you're always looking to define your segment and put parameters around it. What it turned out is that actually identification and statistics around different disabilities are really varied and no consistent source for identifying it. So in that original work, I did look at it, which is where the billion came from. The billion is sort of an accepted number now across the industry. But of course, what it's made up of is people with vision impairment, like myself, hearing impaired, like the people using the captioning, physical impairment, people in wheelchairs and so on, and of course, cognitive and learning. So the categories, they sound straightforward enough, but actually, even within the vision impairment community, you know, when you first met me, Dario, I was legally blind, but I can tell you I'm a lot more blind now than I was when I met you 20 years ago. So the degree of disability is also really important. And of course, the issue about aging population and people who acquire an impairment as they get older, as their hearing starts to drop off and their sight starts to drop off and their dexterity starts to drop off, let alone any cognitive issues. So it's really important to bear in mind that the billion includes a very wide range of degrees of disability, and of course all those different disabilities, some hidden. And I think this point has been made before, that sometimes we don't even see that people have a disability if they, for example, respond very badly to sound, or there's an anxiety type issue, or indeed things like dyslexia. Very, very common problems. So I think we have to be very careful in exposing this issue and making people much more aware of it. And that's why, I'm delighted today we've got such a wide variety of contributors to that discussion.
Oh, so the billion takeaway is it shows that the size of this market, and then you just mentioning how this is a grayscale, if you want. There is not a clear definition in and out, and but actually, probably it's true that our life is, as you were saying, a bit of a grayscale itself. We start maybe fully able, but then, given our life expectancy so extending, so many of us might extend our own disabilities later years. So this is a real issue for everybody. Absolutely,
and I think one of the really important things, and I'm sure the others on the call will possibly comment on this later, but when I was first diagnosed as being visually impaired, I didn't want to carry a white cane. I didn't want a guide dog. I thought I can live without this. but gradually. So there's an issue about the acceptance of the individual of the need of the disability and the need for special support, and then there's the acceptance of the community and society as well, the other way around. So yeah, it's a topic that touches everybody, and in fact, economically, since we're talking about the economic impact, you know, I calculate it's something like a $4 trillion impact because of the earning power and the spending power of people with disability. So it is a commercial issue. It's not just a CSR issue, as was said would have been in the past. It's very much a business issue, and that's what we're trying to emphasize here, and that's what I drew out during the report.
And yet in the report, the subtitle is the hidden segment. So we have the size, we have revenues out there, people ready to engage, but why is it hidden?
Well, as with whenever you're doing a report, as you know from your days as an analyst, you want something which actually captures part of the issue. And of course, and I'll use it as a very personal example. You know, as an 11-year-old, I was sent away to a blind boarding school in the UK. You know, people with disability were not to be seen, almost Victorian values. You know, pushed away out in there. And I think because of people's lack of understanding of PWD, I think a lot of the disability issues are not understood in the mainstream, let alone understood as being a commercial opportunity. And what's happened is that technology and services used to be very specific to different disabilities, very expensive, clunky equipment that was designed for people like me with vision impairment or hearing aids, you know, or of course wheelchairs and the like. But actually now, to Andrew's opening comments point, the mobile phone becomes that common denominator, a scale denominator, an affordable denominator, and a platform upon which we can build accessible solutions. So it has been hidden, but we're increasingly looking at it being exposed as that business opportunity.
Well, and so you're just touching now on technology and the smartness of a smartphone. And so let me ask a bit more. Are they even smart enough to deal with the omni-channel multimedia environment? Is it something, are we ready really to do it?
Do you know that there's a very interesting, in discussing this with many other, especially visually impaired people, I get accused of being the glass is half full because I'm positive about it. There are certainly those who believe it's half empty because they still feel frustrated that so much more could be done. But the fact is that the technical building blocks, you know, the hooks into the operating system, the standards and the frameworks within the applications development environment, those are there. And certainly, you know, in standard approach to building websites and so on. So I believe many of those issues are there, the blocks are there, but actually pulling them together as an industry and also educating the people around the users at the end of the service. You know, I'm lucky to have been a technology analyst all my life and got access to great technology very quickly. I have a younger brother who's blind who hates technology and, you know, really struggles with it. So there you have the bookends, you know, of someone who's lucky to be an advanced user of the technology, and at the other end, someone that really struggles even to answer a phone call on a smart device.
It feels like we're going to have a debate later on coming on the readiness of the glass, half full or half empty. But let me ask for the final questions before I let you then take over the chat with our colleagues coming soon. Inclusion and design inclusion. We've heard about the principle of design thinking, but are we ready to give a recipe to the CEOs out there, the one that our chairman, Andrew Bag, was referring to, the CEO, the CMOs that want to engage a bit more in this segment? What should they be doing? What should they be asking?
It's so fundamental, and I think the example I would give you is when I first started working for the Logica, the software house, back in the long time ago. That my first piece of kit was a thing that plugged into my computer and scrolled big orange text letters across the screen. If the things you might have seen at a football stadium, for example, a really clunky bit of add-on kit, and that's what happens is you add things on, you do it afterwards. It's clunky. It doesn't get the benefit of all of the technology. By starting with inclusion, designing from scratch, then we start to get all the benefits of the technology as it appears. And as you'll hear from various contributions during the rest of the session, that means also not just doing it once, but keeping that at the heart of the design process, because it not only it applies to people with disabilities, but because, as you said, we're talking about omni-channel and all those different means of interacting with your customers or with your service provider or technology provider, that on some occasions, you're driving a car, then you're not going to use the vision input. You might turn to text and audio described text in there. So what we begin to get is a much richer service and experience that gives everybody the opportunity, to benefit from this. And if we do it from scratch, then we don't need to do clunky add-ons. It's built into the process. It becomes second nature. And of course, my dream is that we get to a stage where this stuff is built so much into the DNA of everything that we all do at a business level that we stop even talking about accessibility, because we've achieved it. But we're a long way from that. I think there's many questions to be covered in the meantime.
Well, I'll leave you to ask some of that questions to the people out there. I'll just remind that in the chat in Zoom, you will find the link that magically appears, so in case you want to download and listen more from the research. And that will also be followed in an email later on. We have additional information on how to find much more at the end of this session. So Chris, I'll disappear now, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Dario.